Hello, 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 and welcome to tonight's episode of Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. This is an episode I've been waiting to do for a while now, and it's finally here. I'm excited to have Neo here with me, and man, we're gonna cover a lot of stuff tonight. We're gonna talk about a lot of different topics and stuff. How you doing, man? How you been?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
This
Excited
is
to be here.
this is
Finally, we've talked
yeah.
about this for a while, man, and it just hasn't
Yeah,
worked out.
yeah, we've been going back and forth, and I know like a lot of it had to do with, I think a lot of it had to do with the last time, I had you and Jay on, and there was some issues, and I think I think that was the problem. I think that was one of the things that was holding it up, but then there was also a lot of stuff, being busy and scheduling and all that stuff too. So.
Yeah, it's actually more of that than the other stuff, but yeah, I was just scheduling was a kind of been a nightmare,
And Geek
glad I'm here
Defense
now.
Initiative, what's up, man? He wants to know, is this home arcade or there are other games in the mix? I'd say that this is kind of
Talking about
all encompassing. It's kind of we've got literally got the Nova
yeah.
Blast behind us.
Oh yeah.
I
So that's
I
what we're talking about, the Nova Blast right now. That's what he's asking about the homework.
I mean, Geek, are you asking about the Nova Blast that's right next to Neo there? Because
Yeah, I think so. So
I
so the Nova Blast doesn't come with any games. It doesn't come with any pre-built games or anything like that. It's an arcade cabinet that hooks up both JAMA and HDMI USB, which is basically like a PC, Raspberry Pi, Analog Pocket. These are all things that I've tested. I don't have a Raspberry Pi, but like let's say Analog Pocket,
so
Mister.
you could literally plug your analog pocket
Yeah,
into that and use the analog pocket
yeah,
to run all your stuff through that.
yeah. So like you have a dock, right, for the Analog Pocket. If you have the dock, then yeah, you can hook it up because this is obviously an LCD panel, so it's got an HDMI input. So that's what you're going to run into this. So, and I have a video that just kind of quickly shows you how to do that. But you plug in the HDMI input into the panel, and then your USB inputs or USB connections from the joysticks connect into the dock itself, also to the two USB ports. Turn it on, and that's it, man. You're ready to go. You can obviously set up your buttons and the way you want it, and that's all through the interface of the Analog Pocket. But Analog Pocket, Steam Deck, PS3, PS4, Switch, a Mac, a computer, right?
Oh wow! So like a PS4, or like an Xbox, so basically
So
anything.
an Xbox 360 also, but so like the Xbox 360 and the Sega Dreamcast, you would need like a VGA adapter for your Dreamcast because this doesn't have component or composite inputs or anything like that. But with a Dreamcast, you can hook up a VGA. Xbox 360 obviously is HDMI, but for Dreamcast and Xbox 360, those are the only two. And I keep looking this way because that's where my consoles are, but those are the only two systems that actually need an adapter for your controls. So like I use a Brook Wingman adapter for the Dreamcast, and you plug in the USB and the buttons function perfectly. Same thing with the 360. There's a Brook Wingman. I think it's called the Wingman X2 or something like that. And that plugs in too. So you would need an additional adapter to use Xbox 360 and Dreamcast. But you still use the same USB controls. It's just a little adapter that you plug in to your ports for your systems.
And yeah, you could plug in a PC, right? Like a mini
Yeah,
PC or a.
yeah. Even like I don't have them. If I get up, I can show you. But even those like the little the newest device that came out, the RG35XX SP, which is a little clamshell handheld. It
Yeah.
just came out. It's got HDMI out. You can plug that thing into this thing and play all the games that are in it with that too. So even something as small and cheap as something like that, you can plug into this thing to play.
It would kind of be like I would kind of question anybody who did that though, because you spend all that money on
Yeah,
something like that,
but
you
at the
would
same
think
time,
you would wanna actually utilize it to its full potential. I mean,
eventually, but let's say you blow your whole wad buying this thing, and now you got to like save up again for the next thing that you need or whatever. Then little things like that, if you have them laying around the house or whatever, You can plug
Oh
those in
yeah.
and play
Oh
them
yeah.
too.
You plug a Raspberry Pi into that thing if you needed to. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get your play. You're gonna be able to play it. I mean, and that's the great thing. Almost anybody that buys that is gonna have something laying around to the tune of what you just talked about, where
Right.
you'll be able to get some use out of it either way, even if you don't have exactly what you bought it for at the time. How easy is it to like switch out stuff for it? Like, is it a big deal, or is it one of those? Is it really just kind of plug and play pretty much?
Yeah, so I mean, like if your device has power, it plugs into the back of the unit where it's got there's a power supply that has an additional AC outlet. So your device plugs into that power resource. If it has an HDMI output, then you plug the HDMI into the panel, and then you take your USB cables from the control panel and plug that into the device. And that's on the HDMI USB side of things. We're not even talking about JAMA, but that's just that. It's that simple. It's like, I mean, it's like having a TV with a control panel, like an arcade stick. That's basically what you're doing too. You're plugging it in. Now, what I haven't done is I haven't used like an HDMI switch, where you can plug in multiple devices or whatever. I don't really know how that would work. It would work well with video, but you still are only using one source for your USB outputs. So I don't know if there's a way to like spread that out to multiple devices so that you can have a bunch of devices inside and then just switch over from one thing to the other. I haven't done that. But as far as like switching out from one thing to another device, it's really not hard. It's just plugging in power, plug in the HDMI, plug in your USB into the inputs, and you're ready to go.
So is it very easy to map controls to whatever it is that you're connected to?
So again, that really just depends on your device, right? So like a Steam Deck, you can map out your controls however the hell you want them. Same goes for most of the UIs in most games. Even on Dreamcast, in your options, you have ways to reconfigure your controls, and you just push the button that you want it to be for this or that or whatever. So it all just depends on what you're using for to play. But it's not hard. Yeah. And then, I mean, even then, like the other thing too, is that everything's just wired. So like all the JAMA, they're all Sanwa buttons and sticks, right? So, but I mean, they're just plugged in. So like you can actually move the wires around and like, oh, if I want this button to be A or X or whatever, you could just switch it over and just rewire it. And it doesn't, I mean, it's just basically pulling a wire out of here and putting it into this one. If you want to go that route, you could screw around and mess around with it that way. But I mean, it's all open to be, played with, and just have a good time with it and experiment. And, it's not going to hurt it. And
okay. Well, Rich Waldello here wants to know, Neo, that screen rotates. Can you show us how easy it is to rotate it?
Yeah, so I just rotated the screen today. I've been playing it in horizontal mode pretty much the entire time that I've had it, because most of the games that I really enjoy, like Neo-Geo and all that stuff, it's going to be that 4:3 aspect ratio. This is a 3:4 if you look at it the other way, but most of them are that way. But I just did that today because I hadn't done it. I recorded the process. For me, I would say, I mean, it took like 10 minutes total. But I did spend some time with the bezel when I took it off. I had to be careful because I didn't want it to catch any dust or lint or whatever on my little sofa that I have here and stuff. And so I had to I didn't want it because they're a pain in the butt to clean, and you don't want to scratch them. So the bezel was something I had to be careful with. But there's 4 screws on the bezel. And then when you take that off, there's 10 screws on the freaking panel. And that one, I think you can like get away with just 4 screws, man. Because when I did it, I mean, if I just put 2 on top and 2 on the bottom, I think it's pretty secure. So I don't really even need those 10 screws. So I think that was a little overkill, but it's really cool because like it's got brackets on the sides and on the top. And so when I took the screws off, the panel was still in place. It didn't like fall out or tumble over or whatever. It's got like a nice little, I guess like a holding mechanism, like it, a little lip that holds the panel in place. So one person definitely can do it. You don't need 2 people or anything like that. So I unscrewed it. I took the panel out. Well, I took the panel out and I rotated it, counterclockwise. put it back into the two brackets for the vertical mode. And again, it just sits in place. I could let go without any screws and it's not falling off or flopping out or nothing like that. And then just put the screws back in, put your bezel on, screw those in, and you're done. So it's really not hard. You're not unplugging anything from the back. Everything like the video encoder and even the HDMI and all that stuff is part of the panel. So, when you're rotating it, it's moving with the panel. You're not, messing with any wires. The one thing I did realize and I learned today is that the audio cable that's hooked up to, there's a little audio board right here where the volume control is, the volume knob. There's another little audio board there where you plug in, you route it from your panel. Basically, the HDMI that's going into the panel, it's shooting out the sound via a little 3.5 millimeter jack. It's a little cable that comes out, and then you plug it in to this board. So when I rotated it, I pulled that cable off of where it was hooked up to. So that's the only thing I would suggest is, you unplug the audio, flip it over, and then plug the audio back in. That way you don't, jerk anything around or screw something up. Because I did that and I was kind of like, oh man, I hope I didn't screw anything up, but it's fine. It works fine. But yeah, that's the only thing. It's not difficult at all. That whole process of me learning all that, it took me 10 minutes. So I'm pretty sure I could probably get it done in less than maybe 5 minutes. And then if I don't use all the screws, if you're one that wants to use all the screws, go for it. But I personally felt like it was pretty secure and stable with just 4 screws, and that'll definitely speed things up. But it's not like the eGrid 2 Mini or an eGrid, or there's a Capcom arcade machine too that has a mechanism that you actually just rotate it, and it's got bearings and swivels and all this cool stuff. I did want to do that for this thing, but it was just like, no, that's too expensive. The engineering or to create that whole thing was just going to cost more money, and we want to try to reduce costs or whatever. Yeah, I had to definitely make some compromises with some of the things that I really wanted with this machine. That was one of the things. I wanted to have a nice, cool, easy mechanism, but this is pretty simple, and it doesn't really kill you or hurt your back or anything like that. The coolest thing is that it sits in place even with the screws out, so you don't have to worry about it flopping out or falling, or you know what I mean. So that was really cool that they did that, at least, So, but yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard.
So you're mentioning all these things, and you're saying about compromises that you had to make. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that you had a little bit to do with the design and the whole conceptualization of the Nova Blast being a thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if it was 2021. I think it was 21 in July. I met the Unico guys at the Classic Game Fest in Austin, Texas. So I met Jay over the internet or whatever, online and stuff. And he asked, I guess he found out that I was in Texas, and he asked me if I was willing to help them out, with the booth that they wanted to set up over there. And I said, yeah, sure. That'd be cool. And they offered, they told me that they were going to have to send me stuff. They were going to send me MVSXs and Arcade Stick Pros. And they didn't even really know me. And for all they knew, I could have just stayed with all that crap and never showed up, and I would have had a lot of cool stuff, But they sent it to me, and I was, eager to meet them, but also to be part of that show, because I've never been to one of those either. So anyways, I took all that crap. I had 2 MVSXs, several Arcade Stick Pros, some Neo-Geo Minis, and all kinds of stuff. And I took them because they shipped them over to me. I took them to Austin. That's where I met Jay and the other Unico guys for Unico USA. And so that's kind of where that relationship started. I met them, and they actually let me keep the MVSXs. So the MVSXs that I have, they let me keep those from that show. And they still work, and everybody was putting their hands all over them and everything. And at the time it was, COVID, and, we were having to sanitize and all that kind of stuff. But I got to keep that stuff. I got to keep, I think another Arcade Stick Pro and Neo-Geo Mini. So they let me keep some stuff, even though I was there for 2 days. So anyways, that's where I met them. And at that show, they had that 26-inch, what now is that Phoenix 26-inch monitor, right? And back, so this was, you're talking like 3 years ago, right? So 3 years ago, I saw this screen, and I was blown away by it. Even to this day, I don't think there's another 4.3 26-inch screen available out there. But back then, it was like, was wowed by it, and I had the Neo-Geo Mini hooked up to it, and I was like, man, the viewing angles, the color, everything looked really good to me. And I started thinking about, man, what can they actually do? What can Unico do with the big ass monitor like that, you know? And I started thinking about full size arcade machines, and then I started thinking personally, like, man, it would be awesome for them to make a candy cabinet, because you know I had to sell mine a long time ago, and that's a whole other story. But I used to have a Neo 25 candy cabinet. I had Neo Geo. I had a bunch of home cartridges and MVS cartridges. I had a pretty good sized collection, man. But I got married. We got a house. I had a kid, and I didn't want to like be in debt with everything because I just bought a house. So I decided to sell all that stuff so that I could furnish the home, and you know, without having all this credit and debt and all that crap behind me. Now I look back, I talk to my wife. She's like, "Man, we would have had all that paid off by now," but which is true. And so it always hurts my heart when I got rid of that cabinet, and even my Neo Geo stuff, man, because I love Neo Geo. But so part of it was selfish too. Like I was like, man, if I can get these guys to make a candy cabinet, I'm sure they'll send me one and I'll have a candy cabinet, right? So like that's what this is right here. But when we started talking about it, I started just like saying like, hey, this is something that we should do. And the reason why I pushed a candy cabinet to them was about the size, that it's got a smaller footprint. It doesn't take as much space as like a full size cabinet that would have a 26-inch screen. And at the time, like the home arcade stuff was like a big deal. Arcade 1-Up and iArcade and all these guys were making stuff. And even Unico had the MVSX, but nobody's done a candy cabinet. So that was another push that, I was promoting it. Like, nobody's done this. You'll be the first to do it. Why don't you do something like this? It would be awesome. So I just kept pushing it. And I think they did, like, at some point Unico had put out some polls asking like what people thought about a candy cabinet and all that stuff. And that's kind of where this all kind of came from, from me kind of like asking them. So then it came time to actually creating this thing. And I had some like what I called non-negotiable, some things that I definitely wanted to happen for this cabinet that had to happen. And if they couldn't do it, then don't even bother. So one was obviously having the screen to be able to rotate. I mean, at the time I wanted to create a mechanism so it'll be easy for everybody just to kind of move it around or whatever. But I wanted the cabinet itself to just be able to be set up in horizontal and vertical mode. All in one, not to where, someone would have to buy a vertical cabinet and a horizontal cabinet or whatever, because I knew this was going to be a big purchase, because I mean, it was going to use a lot of, big real parts and all that stuff. So that was the first thing. The other thing was for it to have Sanwa parts, because one of the biggest things with all of the home arcade machines were the components. That the first thing everybody complained about were the buttons and the sticks and all that stuff, which yeah, they weren't authentic, but honestly, I mean, if you know what the hell you're doing, you can pull off moves on anything, So I always had an issue with that, but I didn't want it to be something that people complained about with this machine, is that, it's going to be real stuff. So I said, I want real Sanwa sticks and real Sanwa buttons. I even researched them and found which types or whatever that were used back in, in Japan, on on original cabinets and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like the newest stuff, but they're traditional sticks and buttons that they would use on the cabinet. So that was the second thing. The next thing was that and this was kind of a crazy, freaky thing too, is that I wanted it to do JAMA and be able to hook up to a PC, like HDMI and USB. So JAMA and USB all in one too. And that was kind of crazy. That one, I wasn't sure if that's something that we could pull off, but I thought that would be cool, because like people that are in the home arcade space, they're buying this stuff and maybe they start getting into or even having some interest in real arcade hardware. So this would kind of be like your foot in the door on something like that, where you might be able to buy a little board and that has JAMA and hook that up and play that, and then eventually maybe you save up and you get your dream cabinet that you really want, the real hardware, real things and stuff like that. So I wanted this to be able to play real hardware. So like you can hook up a Neo Geo, MVS, Capcom, CPS boards, and a lot of other different boards to this thing. It's not going to be universal for every single freaking arcade board in the whole universe, because I mean, there's just so many different different types out there, different wiring harnesses and all kinds. You really get into the weeds. It's a lot of different stuff. So it's not going to be that. But I definitely said that I wanted to hook up to a Neo-Geo. I wanted to hook up to Capcom boards. I wanted to hook up to PGM boards. I did say a Tommy's Wave, but I think that requires a little bit more, a different kind of adapter because of the, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but it has to do with like the vertical and horizontal sync or something like it. It's kind of weird the way it outputs. Anyway, but the main thing for me was Neo-Geo and Capcom were the two big ones for me. I didn't really care about any other boards. Or, people are going to probably, want Midway and, all these other boards. And I think it's going to work for those, but that wasn't like my priority. My thing was I wanted to have, I wanted to cover Neo-Geo and Capcom because to me, those were the two biggest ones. And those are my two personal favorite. But PGM also is another one that I think has some cool games. But anyway, so that was the second piece of it. I wanted to do JAMA and I wanted to be able to hook up, like PCs. And I think I was thinking about like, at the time, PCs, mini PCs, stuff like that you can hook up to it. So those are the two biggest things. Now, some of the things I'm not claiming that I invented this whole thing and I thought about the entire project. There's a whole team that came up with stuff that
it almost sounds that way though. The way you're explaining it, like
I definitely had the dream of this thing, but there's a lot of people behind, turning the dream, making the dream come true type of thing. There's just a lot of folks behind that. So I don't want that to come out like, oh, he's claiming to invent the whole thing or whatever. I definitely put the seed in, as far as like having those conversations about creating this stuff. I did have several hours where I've, not hours, but I remember several meetings where I had cardboard cutouts of like a cabinet and I showed them like what I was thinking about how you would be able to pull off a horizontal and vertical on the cabinet without being weird. So like the whole thing about a perfect square of a bezel. And I remember having like tape for a monitor and I took off the bezel. I had the tape, I took it off, turned it, put the tape back on, and then moved the bezel and put it on. And it was the same cabinet, which is what this thing does, So, there was little things like that I was like showing them what my ideas were so that they understood kind of what I was talking about. There's definitely a language barrier because there's all the folks over in Unico and headquarters are in China. So having those conversations was very difficult too, understanding what they were saying and what, just kind of going back and forth on those ideas. The cool thing is that there's people on that side that really are passionate. And there's like one guy in particular that's really passionate for arcade stuff. And he's the one that came up with like the different topper designs, like making this one look like an Astro City topper. And then the other one is called a U4, which a lot of people don't really like it, but it looks a lot like the MVS U4. So if you look that up, it does look like that, where it had the four mini marquees and then the speakers. And it looks a lot like that U4. So that's why it's called U4. But he came up with that design. He also thought about like the DB15 ports, which is a whole other issue that, we can talk about, but he talked about those ports. I was like, damn, that's a great idea, man. I would love to have that connectivity and the flexibility to just add my own controls and all that stuff too. So the design, kind of like how to create a cabinet with a LCD, that was definitely one of the benefits of doing this, is because you're not sucking up a lot of space and you don't have a big old CRT that's sucking up a lot of space. So like creating a profile that was going to fit an LCD was also a benefit, I guess, on trimming down materials and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that they were going to want to turn it into like a bar top and a base type of option. So we had to kind of look at the design to how we can like pull that off too. And then having a coin slot, that was a big deal, like a real one, something that actually works. I definitely wanted that to happen too. But I just kind of like spit out ideas, and they're the ones that are over there creating them, like
now does the coin button work where you don't need to actually put a coin in? You can press the coin button and it'll insert a credit.
No, it's just it's an actual coin mech.
Because that's something that that's always bothered me about like arcade 1-ups and stuff, where they'll have the coin doors, and they'll be light up coin doors, but if you press them, they don't do anything. It's not like you insert a coin. So what's the point in even having them just for the aesthetic? I always thought, well, at least have it where if you press it because it's lit up, why not just map the buttons to the button, insert coin to that button? It's a light up button. So why not make it possible for you to press the button to insert a coin rather than having to have buttons on the top that do that? But I like the fact that that's an actual real coin door that you know.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you think about it, like if you end up just with the bar top, you don't have any way of adding coins, so it has to have the buttons on top so that you can use them for coin and home, select, and all that kind of stuff. So and then if you get the bar top, or I mean, if you get the base, and one of the benefits of it, besides all the storage that you have at the bottom, would be the fact that you have a real coin mechanism that actually works. But I mean, the button, it has a button, but it's more of an eject in case coins get jammed, which is what those coin mechs are for. That's really all that does. But yeah, man, it was a lot. It took a long time to actually get it going. I would say after about a year and a half, that's when they really started entertaining the idea of doing something like this. And then like things started moving really, really fast. And so like all the artwork that was done, like for the control panel, the side art, and the marquees and all that, was done by Vectorcraft. So he's the dude that was like, when we were in the Hilo stuff, he's the one that made all the covers for like the Capcom and the Neo-Geo. For all the different games. He's a graphic artist. And so when it came time to doing like mock-ups and I was showing them like kind of ideas of what this cabinet would look like or whatever, I reached out to him and said, hey man, help me out and make, designing like a control panel. I wanted to kind of have like a 90s type of flair to it. I wanted to kind of resemble existing panels too, like existing stuff that's been out there, just to kind of like pay homage to other candy cabinets and stuff, but kind of do our own thing. So he started pumping out a lot of different things, and so like what you actually see here and what's going to be final and shipped and all that stuff, Vectorcraft is the one that did it. So I think that was really cool, bringing him in to kind of help with that, when we were just all in this high-low stuff and doing those things. So it's
okay. Well, like speaking of graphics and stuff, Ritual Dello is asking, Neil, will Unico offer any art? Would be cool to make magnetized side and front art so you can swap out art when you get tired of the graphic.
What I've asked is to release templates for all that stuff so that people can just kind of make their own or get somebody to design their other stuff or whatever. I don't think Unico has any plans on having alternate artwork or anything like that, at least not right now, is from what I understand. But my thing is for them to have the templates available so that other people that are in that business, maybe of creating art and side panels and all that kind of stuff, can kind of contribute to the community.
Oh yeah, the third party market for this kind of stuff is just incredible. I mean, there's no end to the glorious talents of the third party people when it comes to the home arcade community. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really wonderful. But like, can you speak on some of the things that were there any compromises in particular that you said there were certain things that were like a deal breaker on it, where you were like, if you're not going to be able to do this, then you might as well not even bother to make it. But were there certain compromises that needed to be made in order for it to come to fruition? In other words, did you get everything that you wanted when you were speaking on this, or was it something that where they did have to compromise on some things?
Well, the screen mechanism thing, that was probably like the biggest thing that I wanted that we're not getting. But other than that, I've got authentic joysticks and buttons. I've got a screen that does rotate. It has a way of rotating it. It's got I like the design of like this one, the U2 design, which is similar to like an Astro City Mini. I thought that was cool where it's got changeable tops. I didn't even think of that, and that's something that came out of it that I wasn't even considering. Because then there could be other designs that come out later for the topper part. I think that's really cool. Like one of the things that I'm thinking about is like an LCD marquee, some way of holding an LCD up there that actually has like video marquees, and I've seen some of those in some PC builds, and I think those are really cool, kind of dynamic marquees. I think that would be cool. Or even like a Blast City style that's like really huge, like on top, kind of looks like an orangutan, with this big face, but it's got like a big topper and like huge art that you can put on the top too. A lot of people would probably like that too. But so there's some versatility, or some, I guess you can add some different accessories or whatever. So there's like some things that you can add to it, I think, in the future. If it does well, I mean, if it does well enough, then they can start creating that. One thing that's really cool that I didn't even consider at the time, but a single player panel. That wasn't a compromise. I wanted 2 players, but I didn't even think about doing a single player. So they're actually working on creating a single player panel. It's already been made, but they're not mass producing it. They haven't announced like the price of it or the option of it or whatever. But that's kind of cool too, because then you just have 1 player on there. If you're not someone that has like a lot of folks that come and play on your arcade, or you just want your own personal arcade machine for yourself. A lot of them are like that in Japan too. But there weren't a lot of things that I say they had to take away. The materials, I wanted plastic. Obviously, I wanted to be molded, injection molded or whatever, to have those nice space age curves and all that kind of stuff. And they went with metal, which I'm still surprised. Like something like this, when you're looking at this, it doesn't really look like metal. It has curves to it.
Yeah, it does. It looks plastic. Right? Yeah,
it's not, man. It's all metal. This right here is a magnet. So this is a sticker magnet type thing that I could just stick it on there. So it's just a magnet. So because it's metal, it can actually connect to that, right? So I thought that was cool that they were able to mold and shape metal that way to where it still had that aesthetic or that look. Now it's not all the way around. Obviously, like the sides are flat, but the toppers have round curves and edges and stuff. So there are some cool design elements to it, even though it is metal. That still holds true to some of that classic Japanese style design, but it wasn't actually ever made to be an exact replica of a Japanese candy cabinet. It's just kind of like taking like in the spirit of a Japanese arcade, but how we kind of turn it into our own thing, so that's kind of what they did with this Nova Blast, so but the other thing, I wanted headphone jacks, and we got them. So that's definitely something that we're going to do. The DB15 ports was an idea that they had that I thought was a great idea, but then there was like a lot of feedback and pushback on it because of where they're at. So they're located here in the front of the cabinet, and so people were complaining like, oh, now it's got big giant holes, and I don't like the way it looks. And so a lot of people like on Facebook and stuff were kind of I'm just going to say it, they were crying about that, about the way it looked, So then it got Unico like all, nervous about it, and like, oh, well, maybe we should reconsider and redesign it or whatever. And I'm just happy that I received this before they did that, because this is really cool that I can hook up a lot of different controllers or do different things with those ports. But anyways, they decided to redo the design to where they got rid of this. And then we talked about the headphone jacks and moving them on the sides of the panel. So now the final, I guess the final release of this cabinet is going to have headphone ports on the sides of the panels for the right and the left. So there's nothing going to be in the front at all. No holes, no nothing, right? So that's one of the little things that they did different. These DB15 ports are like the actual Neo-Geo controllers. That's what you can plug in here, but they sell adapters too, where you can have a USB to DB15. I have a Bluetooth adapter where I can hook up an 8-bit DOE and wireless controllers and stuff and play games that way also. If I wanted to, that you could do that. And so it's really cool. So now the DB15 ports are going to be like an accessory or an add-on if you want it, and you can get it for the back of the machine. So little things like that. But other than that, I mean, there weren't a whole lot of compromises. there's just some things that they did have to make a few changes, and they did some tweaks and listened to some feedback, and redid some stuff. So that's one of the things that held back the original release date, is getting all that feedback from people on this thing. And then when they decided that was going to happen, we started looking at any other things that we might be able to adjust or change or make better or whatever. So one of the things that they're doing now is that on the back panel, there weren't any existing ventilation for the base. And so we talked about like, well, why don't we go ahead and add vents like for a fan or for PC fans or something, if you wanted to hook those up. They're not going to include them, but they'll have the what is it called? The mounting available for it and the vents for it. So if you have like a PC down here on the bottom, you'll have additional ventilation to kind of like release the heat, So that's one of the things that's going to be changed, at least from my understanding. This big door here now, we're changing that to where it's got like it kind of makes it, I guess, more solid, and it just has panels that you remove to get in and out of it, and that's kind of more like an addition, like an actual candy cabinet. So they're doing that, and then they're looking at the video board, and that's another thing that they're looking at, since they're already working on the thing for the 26-inch Unico, the one that the Phoenix. I gave them some feedback on the VGA input on this. I wasn't super happy with it. I thought that the VGA input on the original Unico cabinet was better than what I was seeing here as far as like the picture quality and stuff. So they're looking at that. So they're getting they're revising the video board. The actual board where all the JAMA is getting connected and stuff, they actually, I don't know what it's called, if it's called screen printing or whatever, but they labeled like all the inputs so that it's easier for the user to know what goes to where, like X, Y, A, B, and like all the different buttons for the JAMA. Oh, and then they threw in, which honestly, this is something they should have already done from the get-go, but having the ability to hook up the kick harness to the actual board on the JAMA, they didn't have that. Like on this thing right here, this thing's not set up for a kick harness. So I wouldn't be able to hook up like a 6-button Capcom fighting game to this and have all 6 buttons. I mean, I'll have 3 or 4 buttons or whatever it is, but I'm not going to have all 6 buttons. If I had a actual CPS 1 or 2 or 3 board. So that's something that one was a miss, because that's something that, I mean, I talked to them about when we were first rolling this thing out, is making sure that you could do that, because my priority was Neo-Geo, Capcom, PGM. So when I said Capcom, I meant like all Capcom, not just early Capcom. I want all Capcom. And, when you think about Capcom, Street Fighter is kind of like one of the biggest names and stuff too. So that was kind of a miss, but they took advantage of the opportunity that since they were making changes and there was already going to be a delay, to kind of go in and do all that. So, so I'm excited about the changes. I need to see it to see if they've actually.
So, well, I mean, are they're gonna send that to you when it's ready, the new one?
I don't know if they're gonna send me another one. It would be nice, because then I get to see like the actual product. I honestly don't have room for 2 of these things, man. But yeah, it would be cool if they did send me the other one. But I don't think I'm gonna get. I don't think I'm going to get the revision before everyone gets theirs shipped out. You know what I mean? Like if I do get another one, it won't be ahead of time to give them feedback. It'll just be like, this is it. Here you go.
That's the retail release.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this was kind of like the before, give them feedback. Oh yeah. Little things too. Like I forgot to mention, but like this thing uses like a lot of screws. So they went back and looked at it to try to reduce. I think they said that they're going to reduce the total amount of screws needed to assemble this by 50%. So half as many screws as what this thing has to put everything together. So, hopefully that works out, and that'll just be, I guess, less time to build it, for everybody. That was just one of the little things.
And Ritual Dello also wants to know what kind of speakers are in this, and is there an amplifier?
I mean, there's not like a full-blown amp with a subwoofer or anything like that, but it does have an amp, because, I mean, we're routing sound from that control board where the volume knob is, and it shoots up to the speakers. Those speakers are like, what are they, 3 watt? They're not heavy-duty speakers, but then again, on original candy cabinets, they didn't. I think 3 watts was about the highest that they were, or 2 watts. Again, don't quote me on that, but I remember thinking that, oh, we're in line with what the actual cabinets had. So that would definitely be for me probably an upgrade, because I've got on my little mini blue cabinet, which is an MVSX that I converted to like a Capcom style cabinet. On that one, I've just got 2 PC speakers that have a subwoofer, and those have better sound than even this thing. Because I mean, it's got a subwoofer, and the speakers are a little bit more powerful and all that too. But I mean, the sound is good. I don't know if I can. It probably won't sound good because of the speaker. I mean, the microphone, but I mean, it gets pretty loud too. It's definitely loud.
Yeah, I mean, is that loud enough for you? I mean, if you're,
it's loud, but yeah, I'm sure that would be something that people could upgrade, if they wanted to.
well, yeah, it's like in most of these, in most of these kinds of machines, you'd get like you could get a good set of PC speakers, and you'll get some really nice sound.
Mm-hmm.
Rich Wadello says wire guides are smart. Also, what's the resolution and refresh rate in the screen?
So it's 1440 by 1080 at 60 hertz or whatever it is. That's the refresh rate. Yeah. So basically, what these panels, what they do is they cut them out of an existing LCD. So this was a 1920 by 1080 panel, but then they cut it down to 4:3. So now you got 1440 by 1080. That's kind of how they work it. Now, what I don't know is the response time on these monitors. I don't have a sleuth. I do have a Mister, and one of those a Mr. Laggy. So that's the next thing I need to try, is just kind of do the Mr. Laggy on there, just to kind of report what that is. But I don't know if, but I'm, like I said, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks and everything. But I know it's not zero lag. It's not a zero lag screen for sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying it's not that. I don't know if it's going to be, what the actual results are going to be. But like I said, it plays everything I want to. It responds to what I need, but it's not like a full-blown OLED, which would have been great, but then that would have really skyrocketed the price on this thing, but it's got a big ass screen, and it seems to play smooth for me, and it looks great. The colors are great. It doesn't look great right now because it's focused on me, but I put pictures on Twitter and stuff, and I didn't enhance anything. It's just kind of how the output looked, and everything's pretty vibrant and nice.
What do you got in there right now?
A Mister. I have a Mister hooked up to this thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an IO, like a digital. So it's a digital IO Mister, which means it gives me HDMI out. There was no point in hooking up a Mr. Cade to this because it does have HDMI. So if you think about a Mr. Cade, that's meant to be hooked up to like a CRT, a JAMA through CRT. So you have an analog signal that goes to an analog device. In this case, I have a digital device. So I don't want to go from analog and then to digital. You know what I mean? Like I want to just kind of reduce as many steps as possible and kind of enhance or limit the amount of lag that I'm going to have. So I got a digital version of a Mister that just spits out HDMI and goes straight into the panel. So there's been a lot of talk, like a lot of folks have mentioned, like, oh, I'm going to get the Mr. Cade for it. You don't need to get a Mr. Cade because this has HDMI input, so you can just get a digital IO. But I mean, one of those Mr. Cades will fit on here and it will work. I just don't know if it's going to add lag to the total experience. And even if it's, a millisecond, 2 milliseconds, I don't know how big a deal that is with those folks that look at all that. But I just, when I spoke to some people in this world, in the Mr. world, because this is new to me, they suggested that I just get a digital version of the digital IO for the Mr. But that's been really cool, man, hooking that up to this thing. I mean, all these games, it's really cool.
How does it handle modern stuff, like modern consoles or a modern PC in terms of if you want to do, more intense gaming. I mean, I don't know why you would, because you're technically, just playing classic, retro arcade games and stuff. But if you wanted to, what's
Yeah. So one of the setbacks right now with what I have here, and something that they're improving or working on, but when you have a 16 by 9 video source, this screen blows it up to full screen 4:3. So like Street Fighter 6 looks amazing on here, but it's stretched. It's not in a widescreen panel. Like it's not in a widescreen picture, because it shoots the picture to fill the screen. So like the Xbox 360 has a setting to where I can set it, and then I get the widescreen output on this monitor. But most modern consoles don't give you options to change the resolution of the that's not widescreen, like a non-widescreen resolution for these for a panel, because it's assuming that you have a widescreen panel for your widescreen device. So a PS4, most of the games on the PS4, the PS5, obviously the Switch. So like some games on the Switch will let you do 4:3. Like I have Death Smiles on the Switch, which is to shoot 'em up, and that one actually in the options has a thing that I can set it up to 4:3, and it fills the screen and it plays the way it's supposed to. So I have a modern system that I'm playing the way the game is supposed to be played. But currently, like this version of the Nova Blast, the panel, it doesn't have like a pass-through option for 16 by 9. So where it just lets you feed it and it plays in letterbox. Again, that wasn't the intent of this device. This device wasn't made to be for newer systems and widescreen games and all that kind of stuff.
right?
The spirit of this device is that it's a 4:3 retro gaming system, right? So like all the games that you do remember and you probably did play on a CRT and were originally made on a CRT, it's playing on this panel, which is a 4:3 panel. But I think that's another thing that they are working on, and that's something that's supposed to be fixed. So at the very least, I'm hoping that they send me that new video board so that I can test that out. A new cabinet would be sweet, but I mean, if I could just get a replacement to that video board so that I can retest like the PS4 and the PS3, even some of those games, most of those games too, are like widescreen. But I don't have a lot of arcade games for the PS3, so it's kind of weird, testing that out. But anyway, yeah, so that's the trade-off right now with my machine. Hopefully anybody that gets the Nova Blast, by the time it goes out and you have it in your home and all that, that's not an issue. You can plug in a modern device, and you can decide whether you want it stretched on the full screen or if you want to just see it natively the way it was meant to be played, which is widescreen 16 by 9.
And Rich Wodella wants to know, does that issue occur in horizontal mode?
I imagine it'll occur in all modes, like whether it's horizontal or so that's what I'm talking about. Like if you think about Street Fighter 6, for example, right? It's meant to be played widescreen, if I could do it this. It's meant to be played widescreen, so it's surrounded by like a rectangle, right? And I guess 4:3 is closer to a square. It's still not square, but it's supposed to be played this way. And what this Nova Blast does right now is if you feed it that signal, it'll just like blow it up and stretch it all out. So it just, like I said, it looks great. It looks great, but that it's just not quite right because it's supposed to be kind of squished down. So it fills the screen right now. For vertical games, I'm trying to think of what that would look like. It might look kind of like narrow. You know what I mean? It's not going to look, I don't know. It would kind of be kind of weird on a vertical game that's meant to be widescreen. It still would be squished. So yeah, it would still be squished. But I don't know any vertical games that are meant to be 16 by 9 playfield. Oh, I guess it has it usually does little bars on the top and the bottom, and it'll still give you the 4:3. So I'm not sure if it'll just stretch out the main screen, but yeah, I'm really talking about horizontal games. I'm not talking about like Call of Duty or any of those types of games either, though. I'm just talking about like arcade games and modern systems, so like modern fighting games and maybe shoot 'em ups that got moved over to newer systems and stuff. So I don't even know I wouldn't play Call of Duty on something like this, or Gears of War, or any of those types of what are they called? Those shooters.
I was just under the assumption that you would just play, regular, arcade games and such from the time period of the candy cab, not necessarily trying to play the modern stuff. But some people probably will want to do that. So
yeah, I mean, I did. I hooked up a Switch to it. This thing wasn't. I don't think it was meant to be a Switch device, because I think when I think about Switch, I'm not thinking about anything that's 4.3. It has a lot of collections, Neo-Geo collections and stuff like that you can play on the Switch. But even those are adapted to a widescreen format where they have additional options or additional screens that show, on the bezels and all that stuff. So, but I still tried it out. But yeah, the intent of this device was never to be used for widescreen gaming. And then that's where you kind of go into your view licks and chew licks and all that kind of stuff. So if that's really your jam, is to play more modern arcade games, then I would really direct you to getting one of those, because it's a 32-inch widescreen, 16:9 panel. Even if you play 4.3 games on it, you'll still have a relatively the same size play field that you would on the Nova Blast. But if most of the games that you play are going to be widescreen, then you probably should go and get yourself a Vuelix or a Chulix. But yeah, I mean, it would be great. I mean, if they fix that so that if you happen to play some of those games on here, it'll still work. And it's still a good size screen to where it doesn't feel small. I mean, just sitting in front of this thing, it's a beast, like it's crazy. Like today playing Pac-Man on this thing. My wife was playing Pac-Man, and I was just sitting there in front of it after she stopped playing. I got on, and I was like blown away, like, because today's the first day that I set it up in vertical mode. So like all the games that I'm playing, it's like freaking me out because it's just such a big screen, It's really impressive to me. But like Pac-Man was freaking me out. Like, it's like, damn, man, I got all this space, and it was just really neat seeing it. I haven't played Pac-Man on a screen this size ever. And I know that's an old ass game, but something even as simple as Pac-Man kind of like stood out to me, filling up the whole screen and playing it that way, on a cabinet was really neat,
So what's the best experience you've had on it so far as gameplay goes?
Well, I mean, I love Neo-Geo, dude. So like I just hook up a bunch of Neo-Geo games. I've played a lot of Neo-Geo games on here. I've played some Capcom games. But I mean, I probably spend most of my time playing Neo-Geo on it. And for me, it's tinkering too. I don't really play a whole lot. I spent a lot of time learning more about like the NFC card reader that they use. It's called Tap2. Making, getting little cards made so that I can load games on it with that system, and 3D printing and working with other folks out there like Bedroom Ninja, who's into this, the Tap2 space. He designs things, and I kind of worked with him to help me design a couple of things that's relevant to this cabinet. And I've been spending a lot of time messing around with that. So that's what that little purple box is up there on the top.
Yeah, those little, those little cards that you made, I thought were cool.
Yeah, that's what I kind of been playing around with that. That's been kind of fun. So yeah, these are the little cards right here. So that's Last Resort. It's one of my favorite shooters.
You can just kind of put those in and play them.
And it launches it automatically without you having to mess with the menus or anything like that. You just put that in, kind of like a cartridge. Put the cartridge in and it plays the game. So it's just been a lot of fun.
See, now is that is that going to be an actual product offered?
I mean, if you get a Mister, then you can do it, but it's not something it's not unique to Unico. It's not something that Unico is doing. This is just something that is out there in the community for Mister and all that kind of stuff. Now, I think they got this thing working on a Steam Deck too. So if you have a Steam Deck, you can probably hook it up that way too. So it's just one of those things that you can do on your own. Set that up. Now, this little stand that's there, Bedroom Ninja, he's in the UK. So I talked to him about, if I could print these things out and sell them or whatever. I mean, that would just be my little thing that I would do. And I could sell those to anybody that maybe wants to do this at home with their Nova Blast.
Yeah, that would actually be a good idea.
Yeah,
I think
I could do
that
that.
that genuinely would make it super cool.
Yeah.
Just as another way to enjoy it, and to give you that nostalgic, kind of almost cartridge like feel that you were talking about.
Yeah, it kind of brings digital back into the physical world. That's how I see it. So it's kind of neat, especially right now when there's a lot of talk about, everything going digital. This is kind of like our fight to bring it back and make our own physical, So
yeah, it's the one thing that, when you look at all of these machines, it's like you think to yourself, okay, we have these machines and these machines are very physical. But the fact of the matter is your games are
a bunch of ROMs, a bunch of digital stuff,
Everything's digital. So you're not unless you're doing what Evercade is doing right now, which again, they're kind of getting, I feel like they're getting a lot of flack from the community, like, well, who's this for? Who needs this? But I kind of feel like the idea of actually being able to take a physical cartridge and stick it into a bar top arcade, I think that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. The whole physical, the whole physical aspect of it is just
and
really
what did they
nice.
say? They were saying they were boasting that they sold over 1 million cartridges or 1 million titles or whatever. So there's a lot of people out there with cartridges, man. And so
so if you're gonna buy that, you
already have the cartridges, and then this little bar top comes along that's gonna work with your cartridges. You pop them in, you can play games like in an actual arcade style experience. I think it's pretty cool, So, and then like people complaining about the price, because I think it's gonna be like what, $250, $230, $240. I don't know, something like that.
I think it's like, but people are forgetting that. I think the pre-order price, I think, is $229 US, which is what the retail price is for arcade 1-up countercades.
Right.
$229.
And those are
actually you're kind of getting a better deal with what Evercade is doing, because again, you can buy cartridges and you can play more games.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're getting these great Capcom offerings out of the box. You're getting the Street Fighter Alpha games, you're getting the Mega Man collection, all that. And then you've got all these other options where you can just plug in your cartridges.
That's right.
I don't know. I think it's a good value. Yeah. I'm definitely going to get one.
Yeah, it's cool having all the marquees and stuff like that, being able to change them out. That's really neat, But the other thing too is, like, I don't even have conversations about price anymore with anybody, and I don't even talk about it, because ever since those little tiny mini arcade things came out with you buy a little Coke machine, and then, or they sell like little Coke machines and a little coin machines, and it's like about this small, right? They're maybe 12 inches high, maybe the size of a water bottle. You know what I'm talking about? Those little toy, I don't know what they're called, but it's got little tiny little joysticks and little tiny buttons. They sell those things for $199. I've seen some of them sell for like $229, $249 or whatever. Man, if people are buying that thing, then you're crying about $229 or $249 for something that's a little bit, that's a lot more sizable and, has actual buttons and sticks that you could actually play on, not just put in your little room to have your little.
Right. Yeah,
get the hell out of here.
You're buying all this. I kind of feel like you're buying all this. You're buying all this desk crap, and I'm thinking
people spend money
New Wave
on what they
toys
want.
and New Wave toys.
Spend money on what they want,
and what is it? New Wave toys and Numbskull, where they make the replicas of arcade machines with the little tiny controls. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah. And to me, those never really appealed to me, simply because of that. Like,
but somebody likes it, right?
I like the countercades because of the small form factor and the whole concept. So for me, it's like the Evercade thing is like right up my alley. It's a small thing. It's a small little bar top, and you can do, and there's been a ton of these little bar top options.
Yeah.
I mean, Unico had one out not too long ago. It was called, what was it called? The Game Station.
Oh, that was from the Retro Station, the Capcom one.
Retro Station, Retro, yeah. There's
a lot of stuff like that, but I'm just saying, like, people are gonna spend money on what they want, And if you don't like it, don't buy it. If you don't, you know what I mean? If it's too much for you to buy, if you don't think it's worth it, don't get it. But the price is the price, so
Well, like if you look at
there's value in it. If you
like,
have
is that something that, was that something that you consulted Unico on when it came to the Nova Blast?
About what?
Price.
Absolutely not. I just had the idea, and they had to figure out how much all that stuff cost them to make and the build, and they figure out the price. I know what I would have liked it to be, but I don't know what their costs are for materials, and that's not how deep I get into all this. My thing is, I'm like an idea guy, and help make it a reality, and I want to see it, and now it's here. That blows me away. That from having a conversation, sketching stuff out, asking for certain things, talking to Vectorcraft and him making the art, and then them putting everything together, and it's right here next to me. That's freaking awesome. That's crazy. And there's a lot of guys that know me in other channels and stuff like that, and they know that I was talking about this stuff a long time ago, and to see it like an actual thing, it blows me away, man. It still freaks me out that I was able to be a part of that, so I'm really just blown away the fact that we turned something like an idea into a reality. And
yeah, I mean, to see it come to fruition, and it's like, there it is. It's right there. But see, that's how I felt about the MVSX. I couldn't believe when the MVSX came. I was so excited for that cabinet, and it was so disappointing to hear people hypocritically attack the MVSX when they've been buying arcade one-ups, for years and giving arcade one-up a pass. But here you had the MVSX that gave you 50 games right out of the box.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna say it. The MVSX is the greatest home arcade system or home arcade device that ever came out in this whole space. Now, the only exception I would say is, and it's funny because they're no longer in business, is iArcade. Their construction, their build quality. I think the speakers were a lot more powerful, and were really, even to this day, are probably the most powerful speakers. Their idea, their business model of allowing people to buy more content for their system, I think all of that was great, but for whatever reason that didn't work out. But besides that, having like what you said, those 50 games in the cabinet already, not like, you know how many arcade one-ups you would have to create to have 50 games? Like if they took the Neo-Geo license and they split it up into 12 games? Well, what's the most games that are in an arcade one-up?
God, I think
6, 8. Maybe some have 12.
It's usually, I think.
Anyways, let's pretend 12. They would have to make 4 different cabinets in order to get all of the content that was released in one cabinet. So, and at the time that it came out, I don't think there was even any cabinets that had 12 games in it. I think the most.
And not only that, online was still a relatively new concept too.
And I'm not crapping on one-up, dude. I'm not going to do that, but I think they did a great thing and released a lot of content that people enjoyed or whatever. But there's just a lot of people that don't know Neo-Geo, didn't grow up loving Neo-Geo, so it's just one of those. I got people that come into the house and they see it and they're like, "What's a Neo-Geo?" I have to deal with that all the time, even to this day. But if I had a Pac-Man, if I had a Street Fighter or whatever, they would know what the hell that is. You know what I mean? It's just a lot more noticeable, recognizable.
So true. Yeah, so true. It's crazy to me.
That's just the way it is, man.
But that's the thing. I have so much, like you, I have so much nostalgia for Neo-Geo.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I always wanted one. But again, like most people, it's like, who could afford a Neo-Geo at that time? It's like, are you kidding me? Like one of my childhood memories for Neo-Geo is walking by a Babbage's, which was a video game computer software store in the mall at the time, and going by there and going in there and checking out what they had and seeing a solid gold Neo-Geo in the store.
That's crazy.
actually there. I don't know whoever bought it. I don't know if they ever actually sold it, but it was there, solid gold. And to this day, I've never seen one of those solid gold ones online.
Yeah, I've never seen that either, but that's crazy. But yeah, man, Neo Geo is just one of those things. You know, either you like if you know it and you love it, it's because of playing it back in the day when it came out and all that stuff. And it's got so many games in it too. Like what's crazy about it's got like every single King of Fighters that was ever released for the Neo Geo. It's got every single Fatal Fury that was ever released on the Neo Geo platform. It's got every single Metal Slug that was released on that platform. Every single Samurai Showdown that was released on that platform, on the Neo Geo platform, all in the NVSX. That's bananas, man. And you have access to all of those games. Like most people say, why do you need so many King of Fighters or whatever? Well, some people like certain King of Fighters, but here you have every single one. So you've never even played one of them, you can try it out, you know. So yeah, I've always loved the NVSX, and I thought it was a great product. And you know, I never really paid much attention to the people that, you know, ignored it or said crap about it or whatever. I mean, how many times has it been discounted? Have you ever seen it like? Have you ever seen it for like $2.99 or?
Never. And you know why? You know why? Because it sells. It sells at the retail price, and it's selling well at that price. They don't need to reduce it. They don't need.
Right.
It's one of those things that I was so happy that I had the money at the time and I was able to get one, and I just love it. It is like, to me, because I mean, I have so many childhood memories of Neo Geo. I remember literally going to Pizza Huts and with family, and then, you know, while you're waiting for your pizza, you'd go and they had the big red cabinet.
Yeah.
You could play whatever games they had on at the time. You know, again, Samurai Showdown and Metal Slug and all that, Mark of the Wolves. I mean, you're really at this point, if you're a fan of that stuff and you love it, I mean, I don't know how you could be critical of it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a perfect cabinet.
Absolutely not.
But for 50 games out of the box, and considering what you're getting as an alternative at the time, it's a great deal. It's a great value for the money. And then, of course, you know, when the high-low hack became a thing, right? I mean, at that point, it just added exponential value to an already great value. I mean, any way you look at it, it just, to me, I couldn't agree with you more about it being the best home arcade offering to date.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any Unico stock, or I'm not a salesman for Unico or whatever, but I mean, it's my favorite home arcade machine, and I'm blessed to have two of them. But I converted one to a Capcom version of it or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you did. Yeah. I think you did a great thing. I watched those videos you did on the conversion that you made to the Capcom, and I thought that was great with the Q sound.
Yeah. It's little touches, you know, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun doing that, you know.
That's awesome
stuff. But like you said, it's not perfect. Yeah, there's some things that they, you know, could have done differently, and like the variety of the games could have been a little. Maybe some more shoot 'em ups, or
my thing is, why not just if they, but I honestly feel like if they could have, because they threw so much in there, I feel like if they could have, and if there wasn't any licensing issues or whatever, they could have threw every Neo Geo game that ever came out on the platform. They could have just threw them all in there.
Yeah, definitely would have been some licensing issues doing that, but yeah, man, I mean, just even some more variety, or having a separate machine come out later that had a different lineup of games or something would have been cool.
Right. Like a second, because really there's only like what really officially released Neo Geo games. There's only like 100 and what, like 41,
somewhere around there. Yeah.
148 maybe. So you think about it, you know, one, maybe two more cabinets,
right,
to cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got also, if you got to have 3 different Neo Geo cabinets, that's still a fraction of what you would need for, you know, with Arcade 1-Up. You still would never get that many games.
Yeah.
You have 27 cabinets, and you still don't have those types of numbers. It's But Sin Havoc here says I'm interested in getting MU deck because of having all those classic games. What's your thoughts about MU deck?
So MU deck on what? That's just software, right? So you can run MU deck on a lot of different.
Yeah, you can run
devices.
it on your computer. You can run it on if you've got Sin Havoc, if you've got like a handheld.
Yeah, if you have a handheld that's powerful enough to handle what you like. So like if I'm thinking MU deck and I'm like probably the peak of what I would want to run is like Sega Dreamcast, Naomi, Tommy's Wave, right? I'm not really thinking about PS2, PS3, or GameCube or any of that stuff. I mean, you can get some pretty cheap devices that can handle that and run that software, which is really nice. So MUDick is a little front end, right, that makes it look
and it's really great. Yeah. PC and Steam Deck OLED. Yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're golden right there. I mean, I have an Ein Odin, the handheld. It's got Android and I think PC on it too. It duals, and I always use the Android side of it, for everything that I want to play on the handheld, and I can play up to I think I can play up to PS2 on it.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I have no issues whatsoever. I actually think it plays past that. I think it plays.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think it plays up to PS3 actually, because I did run a Nintendo Wii stuff on it and some other stuff. Yeah. It runs Nintendo Switch as well. So,
I ran Wii on. I ran Wii through the Steam Deck on here to play that. What's it called? Takinoko versus Capcom, or it's
yeah.
I had never played that game before, and so when I got this thing, I wanted to hook it up, and it was pretty cool playing that on the Steam Deck on here.
How did it look? How did it look on there?
It looked good. It looks clean, man. Like a real crispy, clean, clear, vibrant. You know what I'm saying? It looks like new modern games. They have a lot of flash, and
I think
not that the Wii is modern, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think if I were to get a Nova Blast, I would connect my Odin to it because I've got everything on there on an SD card. I'd probably just plug the Odin directly into it because it has the HDMI and it would probably work perfect. So there's a lot of different options and things you can do, but like at the end of the day, it's like I think we're living in a time of abundance with all this stuff. There's just so many ways to play any kind of games you want to play. If you want to play modern, if you want to play retro, whatever you want to do. And it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at all price points too, man. I mean, you can play $40,000 to 40,000 games on a small little $50 device, and if depending on how far you want to go with it, if you want to play beyond, Dreamcast and all that, you want to start going into like the newer the system, the more money you're going to spend on your device to play that system. So if you want it to handle PS2, PS3, even PS4, or is there even a PS4 emulator? I think there is, but you know what I'm saying? It's like the further the newer you want to go with your device that you want to play, because we all come from different times. So some people's retro is a GameCube, you know what I mean? They want to be able to play GameCube games or whatever, and so then their device is going to have to be a little bit more powerful to handle that, and you're gonna have to pay a little bit more money. You're gonna pay more than $100 to play GameCube on a handheld device or on a little mini PC or whatever. Well, maybe not. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like the newer the device, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more money. But if you want to go back to most 90s games, 80s retro games, even systems, like your 16-bit systems and all that, I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money to enjoy those games, So
that's very true.
Yeah,
that's very true. Ultimate Spider-Man on PS2. I do remember it. I don't remember playing it very much, but I do remember that game. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things, man. I'm just excited for all these options because it's all about options, man.
Yeah.
And you and I, we both agree that MVSX is the best home arcade offering because maybe we're both a little biased because we both love Neo-Geo so much. Yeah. But that's
I'm sure
and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Yeah. But but like, I don't know. I mean, we're fans of other stuff too, so it's kind
Mhm.
of, it just depends.
Yeah.
So you're so what are you currently working on now? Like what's your major thing you working on? Are you currently working on or floating any ideas over to Unico now
Well,
currently or
I'm kind of thinking of what the next thing would be after the Nova Blast. So we started out with this candy cabinet and this idea. If this thing does well, the next thing I would like to see is an American style arcade cabinet that has interchangeable control panels, light gun support, trackball and wheel and uh, still a rotatable screen, great speakers, because now you're talking about, an American style modern, like a modern American style arcade. Um, the Unico has talked about changing the screen or having an additional screen come out that's over 30 inches or like a 30-inch 4x3 monitor panel. That would be a cool device to use for a new arcade machine. But again, it all depends on how this does, because obviously if this doesn't do all that great, they're not going to want to spend money and make another cabinet because they're just going to think, well, it's just going to be like this one or whatever. So I'm hopeful. I hope that it does well. But I mean, even then, just anybody to come out with a cool solution that's not $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Like, I don't know how these guys are paying $14,000 for these pinball machines. I mean, more power to them, man.
God. Yeah,
Like,
no,
that's
dude,
awesome for them to be able to, but I can't spend that kind of money, man. I don't have that kind of money to get an actual, like a real pinball, but I mean, something that's affordable, that is home arcade. And then maybe they can sell it, to actual businesses and stuff too. Cause I mean, this thing is something that businesses, barcades, stuff like that can actually buy this. It's got locks, and it'll lock everything up, and you don't and it'll play games, and you can add whatever you want to it. So you can make this thing make money for you if you wanted to, but that's not what the intent was for it. But I think if we were to make a different cabinet, I mean, that would be my next target, would be to do an American style arcade cabinet with an even larger screen. I mean, just go full big on it. And then after that, maybe making something affordable. It's kind of like in the more Vuelix style, where we have a really great, 16:9 panel for modern, like more for your modern type stuff.
Well,
Modern games,
what
whatever.
about Unico coming out with another Neo-Geo cabinet? I mean, the MVSX is doing well for them, so why not do another
I
Neo-Geo?
think it comes down to like licensing and limitations, because I think like if they were to come out with something today, one of the requirements that I would want as a customer, I would want to have some sort of online capability.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I would like to be able to connect with others and compete with others, and have leaderboards and all that kind of stuff. So I think at this point, any Three Force arcades or any types of licensed arcade systems and devices, bare minimum, it should have some sort of online component. And I think that's
100%.
kind of a limitation with SNK and the licenses that they have with like Unico. I think they tried, and they weren't able to do that.
Wasn't that what wasn't that what the initial idea was? They were going to sell packs that you could purchase, and then you could plug in to the USB to update your cabinet.
Yeah, so I don't remember if you remember when Old Man Ruckus left Hilo,
yeah,
and he went to Unico, and that was his objective, was to make that happen. And I don't think SNK was ever ever greenlit that project. So there's something with the licensing and all that, as far as like maybe it's like limited to like Amazon and Nintendo.
Well, what freaks me out is that, like, for example, At Games has Neo-Geo games on their arcade net.
But are they SNK Neo-Geo games, or are they licensed from like Visco or other companies?
See, that I don't know. Yeah. I know Metal Slug is on there.
Okay.
I know. I'm trying to think of some of the titles, but they do have some titles. I think they got like Breaker's Revenge, which I know is
Metal Slug. I mean, Metal Slug belongs to SNK for sure. I didn't know that was
Metal Slug was on there. I think Rage of the Dragons is on there. I think
that's not SNK. Yeah.
I think what are some? I'm trying to think. What are some of the titles that are on ArcadeNet? But I
Yeah.
know they do have some. They do have some, and those are online. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I don't know if you can actually play head to head or if it's just leaderboards.
Scores.
All
Yeah.
that. All that. I don't really know the details.
Yeah. I'm not really sure either about
But
all
if
that.
they were to, but if they were to come out with another cabinet, I agree with you. They would have to
Yeah.
add those features in because I'd want to be able to play with you on Neo-Geo. You and I, we could play,
Yeah.
against each other in Breaker's
Oh
Revenge
yeah, man. That would be
or
badass.
whatever game we want to play. I mean, there's so many great games
Yeah.
on the Neo-Geo platform that you would need to, step it up.
Yeah. So if like Unico was to do something, it would like, and if they asked me like, "Hey, what do you think? What can we do?" I would say it has to be a bigger screen. It has to be, definitely do the 4-button layout like the way a Neo Geo was supposed to be. If it's an American style arcade or whatever, um, uh, online it would have to be bigger, closer to like a 1-to-1, but maybe you can thin it out so it's not so deep. Because I mean,
Right.
the
Right,
bulk of
because it still has to be
going to be an
home.
LCD,
Still
but
has to be home
yeah, it's
arcade.
got to be the home
It can't.
arcade
Right.
full size to where it's tall enough where you don't need a riser and all that stuff.
And you have to have real Neo Geo buttons and sticks in there so that
Yeah,
people can't complain and
right,
say,
right, right,
"Oh yeah, no, these are crappy buttons and
right. So
sticks."
that would be badass if they did that, and then actually like they can have mini marquees that you can actually interchange them and all that stuff too. That would be cool. So all of that would be something that, and even maybe a memory card component in the front where you can actually put in like a card, or if they develop their own little memory card that kind of resembles the original, where you can put it in, put your saves on, and that type of thing. That would be sweet. But it would have to be something like that to make it worthwhile. Because I mean, like you said, and we've talked about, the MVSX is a pretty impressive machine. So you'd have to definitely, go bigger, badder, better than that thing. You know what I'm saying? You definitely have to do that. So that would be like, and it would have to either incorporate like a 26-inch screen, and none of this 19-inch stuff or any of that. Like I would want a nice big screen on it. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
ArcadeNet has a lot of SNK and Neo Geo games.
mhm,
Thank you for posting that, Ritual Dello. The games that they've got Art of Fighting 2, Fatal
mhm.
Fury Special, Mark of the Wolves, the Ikari Warriors, Metal Slug, Samurai Showdown 2, Last Blade. Yeah, there's a bunch of them on here. Shock Troopers.
And they're to play online or to buy online, or what is that like? I don't know.
Well,
I'm not familiar
this is
with.
this is ArcadeNet. If you have ArcadeNet, I guess you can
Uh-huh.
play them. You can play them online.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't. But that's the thing. So I'd be surprised if they were to put out another official Neo Geo cabinet and you didn't have the ability to play online.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, that would be
That
something they
kind of
definitely
would be a deal breaker, even if they didn't have even if they did all the other options you mentioned.
Yeah.
I still think
People would want online, man.
now.
Yeah. Now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, it didn't need to be
Right.
online. I honestly, I'm just happy to have the MVSX. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, it's not even because I mean, back in the day, we didn't play any of those games online. So I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
At least have sports and
Yeah.
fighting
Variety.
games online.
I agree
Yeah, a
100%. Like
variety.
just having a variety too, that would be essential. So the next, if they were to make another one, it would have to have a good mix of games, in addition to online, in addition to full size, in addition to a larger screen, in addition to all these things. Real authentic American style buttons and sticks and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I
um,
want that. Would want that Neo Geo clickiness. You'd
mhm.
have but again, if that's something that they were to come out with, and they did all those things, yeah, I would have no problem. I would have no problem upgrading. I would think
Mhm.
that's perfect. That'd be a reason to
Yeah,
upgrade.
and it has to be an upgrade. It can't just be another device that comes out, it's got to be a lot better than what
Like the what was the one that they came out with? The other bar top they came out with. What was it?
Visco. Is it the
Visco.
Visco one? Yeah.
Yeah, the Visco one. That
Mm.
kind of confused me a little bit, like because they had some games included on that weren't, of course, weren't included on the MVSX because of licensing.
Yeah, well, this is a Visco. This is a Visco licensed product, but it had not all the games that are on that machine are Neo-Geo games. Some of them are just Visco arcade games or arcade games that Visco owns a license to. But some of them, a lot of them were. So that's a bar top that was actually had the buttons and the sticks, and the buttons were in the right format, 4 buttons, and it had I think Androdunos, Breaker's Revenge, Captain Tomaday, goal, like some soccer.
Didn't it get hacked though to where you could add everything else that you wanted?
I've seen it, but it never. I don't think it ever made the light of day. I think P-Dubs did a video on it too, that he was gonna share it with the community. I guess he had access to it too, or whatever. But I never saw that happen. So there's something out there, but I don't know how public it is, or how much distribution, or how available it is what I should say, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no,
what I got to see wasn't easy. Like if it were me, like I never even hacked my Neo-Geo Mini, so like I wouldn't even do the hack just because of how much of a pain in the ass it was to do. It's not like it wasn't like the Hilo thing where you just put in a USB drive and then you get the hack or whatever. This was like a whole intricate type thing where you open up the machine, you have to plug it into a computer, upload some image to it. You're flashing some, image to it. And then once you do that, then you can do the whole USB thing or whatever. But so it wasn't user friendly is what I'll say. And I think
right. The Hilo hack was completely user friendly, which is why to this day you still see scumbags on eBay and other online sites selling the Hilo hack.
Yeah,
because it's so easy and so plug and play.
Yeah.
That's and that's unfortunate, because you would think anybody that buys an MVSX could do the Hilo hack.
Yeah, you would think
you would almost. I think people would be surprised at just how simple it really is in terms of
there's people out there that don't have computers, or they don't have access, or whatever. They don't feel like, they think they're going to screw something up, or they think they're going to break their device or whatever, and they end up. That's how these guys, keep selling this stuff and keep making money. So
$200 for a thumb drive for the Hilo hack.
Jesus.
It's like give me a break.
Wow.
Seriously, $200. Like I just yeah. Well, that would be the whole point, Sin Havoc. Yeah, to have offline and online play. And that was one of the things that, like with the iArcade, they tried. They had the off, but they're online. I gotta be honest. On my iArcade, when they were around, I never was able to figure out to get the online thing going, because their online thing was always in beta. Their online never got out of the beta scenario.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is dumb, Jamie. I wouldn't pay $1 for the Hilo hack, man.
Yeah.
All it takes is just a little bit of a Google thing, and you can find everything you need, and you can do it within minutes. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah. It's crazy too, man. Like the way things work, like these days, they use those JSON files, or JSON, or whatever it is, JSONs, where basically you're downloading the games on your own. It's not already packaged with the games, but if you run a script or whatever on your computer, or on like the Mister, for example, it just starts feeding all those games. It pulls it from the internet.
Yeah, that's what it did for it does for Fightcade.
Yeah. Fightcade does that too.
For Fightcade, you're great. You're good. You're gold. You don't even got to. You don't got to do it. It has a script, and it'll get you whatever you need.
That's pretty crazy. But That would be cool, like a little Fightcade box, like without it having to be a PC where you have to actually get on and then like click a window and launch the app or whatever. Just a little box that's nothing but Fightcade. Like when it powers on, it's Fightcade, and you can just start playing online. That would be pretty sweet to have something like that. Like you can plug that into this thing, and you would have online access for all the games that are on Fightcade.
That would be wonderful.
That would
Oh
be
my
sweet,
God.
dude.
Wouldn't that not, that would just, but my thing is just buy one of those little mini PCs, the cheap little mini PCs, put Fightcade on there and plug it into the Nova Blast and you're good to go.
But like if there's like a way to like set it up to where when you power it on, it automatically just is Fightcade. You know what I mean? Like not where it's a PC and then like I need to have a keyboard and a mouse to
right.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that would be cool if and there's probably something like that out there. Where you can kind of like make your PC launch NuDeck and launch these things without having
to do any of that. It just automatically goes into it when you boot it up.
When you boot it up,
like how you do on the Linux PCs with Batacera. It just boots up automatically like a separate operating system. It just boots right into it.
That would be sweet. Like if that's out there, let us know in the chat because I would be interested in doing something like that, and I can try it out here and stuff too. But I don't like screwing around with keyboards and mouse on an arcade system. You know what I mean? Like even with Mister in the beginning, I had to have a keyboard and a mouse to like set it up or whatever. But once I set it up, then I don't screw around with keyboards and mice, But I mean, because it kind of kills the vibe of it being an arcade machine. Once you pull out your little drawer and it's got a keyboard and
Well, that's what I love about hyperspin builds. Hyperspin builds are so easy to have it set up where you can boot directly to it, and you don't have to do. And those are easy to set up too, like a little hyperspin, a little mini PC with a hyperspin hard drive, and you're good to go. You can boot right into it. It's VC knows all about that. I honestly think that at this point, anything that you want to do when it comes to these games, any of these options, it's all just as simple as just doing a little bit of searching online. Save your money. Don't buy high-low hack thumb drives for $200.
Yeah,
seriously, if you're curious, just do a little Google research. And you'll be surprised at how easy it is to do all that stuff. Like you won't even for me, like that when I made like that, I did that when I did my first hyperspin build.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked online to see, stuff I needed and followed a few tutorials, and I was off and running within a couple hours. I had everything set up. So it wasn't a problem. And I kind of feel like if you have enough of an interest in this stuff and you care enough about this, you'll be surprised how easy it is to just do it yourself.
You just got to invest a little bit of time.
Right. It's just about a time investment. That's all it is. I mean, we the whole point is, I mean, and getting it done, getting it done for you is nice too, if you can get it done, reasonably priced. But
Jamie says no love for point and click games, not on an arcade machine, man. No. Leave that to your desk. Leave that to your whatever.
On the iArcade.
Yeah.
The point and click games on the iArcade, right?
Yeah.
What was that one game they put on the iArcade? Was that you were like that private investigator? You're like that bear, like the Sam and Max. Was kind of reminding me of the old Sam and Max games, the Scum VM type thing. Yeah. Like a Scum VM,
I don't have a problem with those games. I wouldn't play it on an arcade machine. That's all I'm saying. So.
No, play it on your PC. Play it on your PC.
Boot it on a handheld if you have, whatever. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but like I don't really, it's a mouse for light gun is just not the same. Yeah, Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Like you're playing Duck Hunt with a mouse.
Yeah.
Click, click, click,
Oh,
click.
people have talked about light gun support for like this thing. I mean, it would work. You would just set your, IR, your infrared things, where you
Or
want them.
like
But
the retro shooter kit.
yeah, it would work. It would, because there's no technology inhibiting those two things from, communicating. But it's kind of weird sitting down and playing your shooting games and stuff, because this is like a candy cabinet. It's a sit down cabinet, it's kind of weird, having it so low and you're doing that, but it's possible. You can do it. I mean, it's more for a stand up system. I think, that's what we're all used to, standing up and
Yeah,
shooting like that.
I
So
don't
it's
think
kind
I
of
would.
weird.
I don't think I would do it for that
Yeah.
for the candy cap.
Right.
But yeah, Sinden should work as well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the retro shooter would work because you could just put those little sensors
Mm-hmm.
on the screen, and
Right.
you're yeah. So I don't know. Again, man, it's all about options. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you could do like magnetized holsters on the sides, because it's all metal, right? Have your guns in there, and
yeah.
pull them out.
Yeah,
Do your thing, but yeah.
there you go, and then you could play Time Crisis and save $700.
Yeah.
I mean, Time Crisis. Oh, I'm playing Warcraft 2 on Exodus at the minute, but yeah, I'm not playing that on a candy cab. Although some cool arcade games on DOS, Amiga, etc. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, again, there's so many options and so many ways to play all these games. What if it doesn't work on one of your options? I'm sure you've got at least one other alternative.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what's
that's the other thing, man, is going back to, like, just really quick to the MBSX. One of the things that was special about it, besides all that stuff, all the things that we've already mentioned, but there's something special about playing on an actual arcade machine. Like, when I have an Arcade Stick Pro, and that's what I had before I got the MBSX, and that was awesome. I can play all those games on my big screen, or whatever, my big, my TV, whatever. And it was cool, doing all that. But then when I got the MVSX, dude, it was like a month or two before I actually even hacked the damn thing. Like, I mean, I had the high-low stuff already, because I was part of that team or whatever, and we were testing stuff out or whatever. But it took me like 2 months to actually load up the high-low hack on there, because I was just enjoying the games that were on there, and I was actually spending more time playing the games when I was actually on the arcade. And I guess that would probably be true to anybody that owns a home arcade or whatever. It's different, like, you can have a handheld and spend time on that if you're, on your subway, on a train or whatever, traveling at a hotel. If you're just quick and easy, jump in and out of stuff. But I found myself spending more time actually enjoying the games, sitting at that arcade, and playing it there like that, so that's what's special about an actual arcade machine. So whether it's the Nova Blast or your home arcade or whatever, is that there's that dedication, that you're right there in front of the screen and you're playing on the controls, and it just feels better than on a handheld, than on an arcade stick, than on a console in your TV. If it's like an old arcade game or whatever, like, there's some games that you have to be played on a console, but all those games that's how they came out. It's just, so there's something special about actually playing on that form factor, that makes it cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, even with the buttons and sticks that it came with right out of the box, you could still play everything fine. I never understood
I wish
that criticism
Dude,
either.
I wish I could have, like, somebody that complained about the buttons and sticks or whatever, that I could play them, because I would kick their ass just as easily with shitty sticks and buttons than I would with the real thing. It's not the components, it's the player, man. You have to adapt. You have to, figure it out. Like the arcade, you go into an arcade, you don't know what the hell you're walking into, man. What kind of arcade, how it's been beat up, how it works, doesn't work, or whatever, how shitty the buttons and the sticks are, how loose they are, or whatever. you're going to go and you're going to play it because that's what's there. You put your quarter in if you want to fight someone or whatever, and you're going to have to deal with it. You're not going to be crying, my stick kind of gets stuck or whatever. Like, well, either you want to play or you don't, you know? So yeah, man, the sticks and the button argument. I mean, other than them physically not working when you push it down and it doesn't register a button, like the thing. Other than that, it's the player, man. It's not the
Yeah,
it's not the
yeah.
system.
I mean, I never had any problem. I
Yeah.
was able to play. I'm able to enjoy all my Neo-Geo games and additional games. I didn't have to modify the buttons and sticks in any way. They still work. They still work fine. I don't have a problem with it.
Now I modded them. I did do it, but not because they were so shitty. It's just because I wanted to modify it and add some flair to it, and play around with it. I modded my Arcade Stick Pro. Not because the buttons and sticks didn't work, but I saw a video that Scarlet Sprites did where he used Saimitsu, and I was like, oh, I want to try that.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw the video he did.
It was fun. It was just fun doing that, but not because it absolutely needed it. I was perfectly fine rolling stuff off and playing my games without it. So, yeah. But
yeah, and they all do that. They all want to blame the controls. Oh, it's not. No, it's because you suck at the game.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what you're doing. You suck, and so now that's what you want to do. You want to blame. Yeah, I love it. Sin Havoc. Here you go. Don't blame the controller. Blame the player's lack of skills.
Absolutely, 100%.
100%. That's where it's at. Like, I mean, listen. I mean, my favorite Neo-Geo game is Real Bout Fatal Fury Special. Okay. Cool, and I play that game. I play that game almost every day. And I can pull off all the moves just like I used to when I would play Neo-Geo in a restaurant or in an arcade or whatever. And I never had any, and I don't have any problems. And I've had my Neo-Geo for years now. And I love it. It still plays great. So I don't know. I guess it's just about but I also, and this is something that I kind of thought about, Neo, that people that are complaining like that and nitpick about every little thing, they don't actually play these games. Because if they did, they would know that they wouldn't, that there's no real problem playing those games with the controls that it comes with.
Yeah. I'm sure, like even I'm guilty of tinkering more than I'm actually playing with some of my stuff. I think about what's the next thing I'm going to do with this machine that's not playing it. Like the whole NFC card system and all that. When I had the MVSX, I modified the buttons, got a new marquee, and changed things out, and then playing like all these other handhelds that there's been hacks for, and I've kind of been a part of that with Acme Plus as a tester, but testing, just running through games, and so I'm guilty of spending less time actually enjoying the game than I am, working on the next project type of thing. It's more of a project, but so maybe some of these content creators, it's more about the content that they're creating rather than the actual game.
Yeah, it's more about the content. It's more about the I'll tell you, I'm not afraid to call him out because I follow him and I watch his videos a lot. But the person who disappointed me the most when it came to his criticisms of the MVSX was Mad Little Pixel. When Little Pixel, when they first announced the MVSX, Mad Little Pixel was all about it. He must have did like 3 or 4 videos prior to the MVSX actually coming out.
Yeah.
And then when the MVSX came out, all he could do was complain about how shitty the controls were.
Yeah, he was starting to do a series of like where he was modding the MVSX. He only came out with one of those. He didn't do any follow-ups to
no follow-ups, nothing. And
he ghosted me on like I can't like if I don't even follow his channel anymore really, but if when I was in the chat, I could see my name or whatever, but nobody was seeing my responses and stuff. So I don't know if that's called ghosting or because I wasn't blocked, but because I could still type and I'm still in there, but nobody was actually seeing my posts. So I don't know what happened there and why why he did that
Yeah,
shit. You
when
know,
he
so
did his
yeah,
review, I was so disappointed because I'm like, man, you were capping for you were yeah, not only were you all about this at first, you were as excited as me and Neo were for this thing, right?
yeah.
You were all about it. Like he was so excited, he was getting me hyped up. And then
Hmm.
and I was already hyped up. I'd already decided I was getting one, of course. You know, the big red, I was getting it no matter what. But when he did his review, so he actually replied to the comment that I made about his review, because I said in his review
Uh-huh.
something to the effect of, you sound like your review just sounds like butthurt entitlement.
What he's
I said it's kind of weird, dude. It's kind of a weird position to take, considering you knew about the stuff that you were criticizing in your review. You knew about before the review before you did your review, because you knew about it ahead of time, and then you got a review unit on top of it.
what did he say?
And he got all offended, and he called me a weirdo
Hmm.
for the comment that I left. But the
Oh,
only reason I commented was because, like, he was so positive about it. He was
yeah.
literally like shilling for it the first couple videos that he did, and then
And
once
all of a sudden, he just.
all of a sudden he just
Hmm.
like switched, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
how can you do that? How can you be like that? This is a phenomenal cabinet. How can you not how can you be a Neo-Geo fan and not like this cabinet? And then I think that was like his way of making amends to all those people, like you said, when he started doing his series that he only did one video on. And I kept waiting to see, well, what's your next video going to be? What are you going to do? What more modding are you going to do?
Yeah, and never did it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his. But if you notice, he hasn't really done a whole lot of Unico stuff since then either.
Yeah,
And
no,
yeah,
no, no.
not
And
really.
I
He
that's
hasn't.
why
He hasn't even talked about this machine, like the Nova Blast.
oh yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
hasn't done one thing about it. He hasn't said anything about
No,
it. Yeah.
no, no. I'll be glad to do a review of the Nova Blast. Just tell, just tell Jay to send me one. I'll do a
Mhm.
review of the Nova Blast. I guarantee you, because I've
Yeah.
got a lot of different things I could test in it, but I can't afford to buy one right now. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. I would buy one if I could afford it, but
Hmm.
that's a lot of money. That's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
But
It is.
it's definitely it definitely looks great, especially seeing it like this right there by you like that. That's kind of
Hmm.
neat. And then with all the additions and changes and things that you talked about,
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah. I'm
doing for the
excited.
better.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited for Unico, and I hope it does well. And
Oh
I hope
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope people respond well to it and all that. But might not because of the success of this, but this success brings new projects, and I'm excited about the future, like other projects that
Oh,
we could do. So
oh
yeah,
my God, yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
actually now I there's been a lot of mixed reactions to the monitors that
Yeah.
Uniqlo's been selling lately. I mean,
Hmm.
Rexer just did a video yesterday.
Yeah.
It was either yesterday
I
or the
think it
day
was
before,
today, earlier
or what,
today.
or was
Yeah.
it earlier today, where he
Hmm.
talked about the problems he was having with the big monitor that he
Right.
got, and the colors and the different aspects. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I had
Hmm.
heard somewhere that Unico is addressing that, though.
Yeah.
There's a new video board or something that they're using
Yeah.
that they're
So
sending out.
apparently that's what they're doing right now is they're working on a new video board that's supposed to be once it's done is going to be sent out for free to existing customers that are utilizing that CGA and all that. So I agree with Rexer as far as one of the things that he said is that you shouldn't need to add resistors to
Right,
get the color and
right,
all or whatever
right.
that stuff. Absolutely, it should out of the box you should get the right signal or whatever. So that was definitely a miss from Unico for that monitor. He did say though that the HDMI looked really good. Like when he had the Mister hooked up to it, that the HDMI that looked really good.
When he had the Pac-Man through the HDMI, you could see, because he showed on the video, you could see how clear and how great it looked. It looked beautiful.
HDMI and VGA inputs are really good, but then again, this was, and to their point, is that it was promoted as an arcade CRT replacement. So you're not really using a lot of HDMI in an arcade, right? But possibly VGA, but mostly CGA, and that's where the issue is. So yeah, that's something that Unico is apparently working on. I haven't seen it, but they're talking about it, and they're really been spending a lot of time on getting this fixed and getting this done right. Now, one thing I want to say is that that monitor that Rexer's talking about is not the same that this is. These are two separate monitors. It's not the exact same monitor that's being used, or it's already out there for people to buy. So they are working on some things with this one to improve it also while we have this delay or whatever, but it's not the exact same monitor. And I think a lot of people confuse that. A lot of people think that this monitor is the one that's out there. And not that that's a bad monitor, because I have one of those too, but I don't have any CGA sources. So I only ran my Steam Deck through it. I ran, anything that has, my Dreamcast through it, and I thought it looked great and it played fine, right?
I would imagine Dreamcast would look wonderful.
Oh, it looked awesome. I have a video showing it, in the dark. I turn off the lights and
I remember watching your video.
The intro going on and stuff like that. But so it looks great. I mean, I wouldn't do that if I didn't think that it was, it looked good, because then I would just get all this criticism like, well, it looks like crap, but no, so that part of it looks really good. But at the same time, to everyone's point, is that it's promoted as an arcade CRT replacement, and most arcade systems are going to have to go in through or pipe in through that CGA input, and that's where the issues are. So yeah, that's something that shouldn't have been overlooked, and like I'm saying, is that they are working on that, and it's supposed to get fixed. Hopefully that they do that quickly now that they've announced that they're doing that,
but that's a great thing. That's a great thing, though. That's a great thing about Unico, recognizing the issues and correcting the issues. Yeah, unlike some companies.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, to add a little bit to the criticism is just that the amount of time that it's been a long time since they released that monitor. It's taken a while, but I'm sure maybe the fixes don't come easy to where you can fix overnight or whatever. I think Unico could probably do a better job of communicating, having more posts and more updates and more maybe sending people emails, or the ones that are existing customers and all that stuff. But I'm not part of all that. I'm not, behind the scenes as far as that goes, but I mean, those are things that I would think that they could still improve on, just to give folks a sense of comfort that they're, that they're being listened to, and that, things are being worked on, because they are working on it. But I just don't think that they're really quick to update and let people know, so it's not until somebody asks a question. They should kind of stay ahead of that and just, let people know kind of what's going on, updates, developments and stuff like that, so that's the only thing I would say, is that they can do a better job with that.
Right. Yeah. But but overall, I mean, like I said, I just look at it like, that there's so many great, cool products out there. Unico's running on all cylinders. I'm really excited. Again, just looking at your Nova Blast, it's exciting to see that it's, that it's a real thing. It's real, honest to God product. There it is.
It's legit. It's for real.
Working legit, and I mean, we've got a lot of projects coming out. Now I interviewed not too long ago. I interviewed Bill McLaughlin about the Bash Box, his upcoming project, and from what I heard, Unico is involved with that. They're doing the distribution? Do you know anything about with regards to that?
My understanding is that they're the ones, I guess, producing it for them.
Okay,
like because they've got the production facilities to make products or whatever, so they're creating, like, they're doing the molding and the all that type of stuff that actually developing or creating the product for them.
Yeah,
But it's,
yeah.
from my understanding, it's still their product. It's
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like
And
it's
and I mean I'm excited for that
yeah,
too, because
yeah.
that's another product that, Bill has always been so passionate and so, excited when it comes to these things, and he's just trying to get a good product out there. So I'm excited for that too. I think that'll be great, and that's probably something else you could put in the Nova Blast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
And
sure. Because it's a box, right? I mean, it just has,
yeah.
you can have HDMI out. It's going to have USB inputs or whatever, and you can plug that into there, just like any other, like a computer, or even a handheld that has HDMI out. I mean, like if it takes USB controls and it has an HDMI or VGA input, you can use that. Now, if you have like a scaler or something like that that allows you to project, like take in composite video, and it shoots out HDMI or VGA. You can use a scaler, and then now you can hook up. I don't know why you would, but you could hook up a Super Nintendo. Oh, like a Saturn. A Saturn would be relevant just because Saturn had a lot of arcade ports. So, but you would need some sort of a scaler, or you would need some sort of adapter that goes SCART to HDMI, or has a VGA adapter or something, and you can hook up a Saturn to this too. And of course, you probably need some sort of a special adapters that convert your USB to Saturn, for the control. So there's a
Or
lot
you
of things
or
you
you
can
could
do.
just emulate.
Or you can
And
just emulate. Yeah, yeah, for sure. You can, if you have a Steam Deck, or if you have
no, he
even an
wants to know
Amber Neck,
how
some of the
does
stuff.
Saturn look and play on the Mister? Have you had any experience with Saturn on the Mister?
Yeah, I do. I have an issue with polygons, man. Like I don't like old. Like I'm not a really huge fan of Mister. I'm not Mister, but Saturn. I didn't have a Saturn, and all the arcade games that it's known for can already be emulated, or not emulated, but can be played on the Mister as the original arcade thing. So there's a few games that it's known for they're popular, and when I play those games, it still doesn't look like clean or crisp to me. Whether I play it on this or on the TV or whatever, I don't like the grainy, jagged edges and all that kind of stuff. But the Mister has a filter, and a lot of people are probably going to kill me for this, but the Mister has a filter that smooths that out. I would never do that for a retro game like a Metal Slug or a Neo-Geo game, or a Capcom game where it's pixel art and it smooths it out, kind of makes it look a little blurry or whatever. But on a Saturn game that has like a 3D Saturn game with polygons and stuff, I use that filter and it looks a hell of a lot better to me. I enjoy playing the game on here that way. And but I think a lot of people would probably hate me for that, or hate on that decision. But I can't stand looking at that old grainy, choppy looking polygon stuff, man. It's too, like, I can go back to a 16-bit game and I can enjoy the hell out of that, but there's something about that 3D time frame, like when the PlayStation came out and the Saturn, and they were releasing all those things that they look super dated now, and I can't enjoy it. Like I can't enjoy those games. At the time, they seem kind of cool. Like I remember playing on the PlayStation. What's the hell is it? Jump. It's like a little robot dude that jumps around or whatever, and it kind of like, it's a 3D game, but you can see like a lot of the depth and all that, and that kind of blew me away because no other system had been doing that. So that was cool, just that experience. But I go back to those games and I'm not really impressed. Like even like on a PlayStation, I'll play like 2D sprite type games on it, like the Castlevanias and stuff like that. But so it plays well, it looks fine, but I'm just not a fan of the way Saturn looks at all. Like period. Dreamcast though, I love Dreamcast. I love the Dreamcast games and the way they look. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot smoother. The polygons are a lot more polished. So that's the when it comes to arcade type games or whatever, the Sega Naomi and Dreamcast, I'm all for it, and I'll enjoy it. But Saturn, I'm not a big Saturn fan. That's just my thing. And because like again, all the games that it's like, if you look at like the top 30 games on a Saturn, I guarantee you most of them are going to be arcade ports. And why are you going to play a port when you could play the real thing, So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
Dreamcast was
agree
badass, dude.
100%,
It sucks
100%.
that it died too
I
soon, man. But
love Dreamcast
I
because think
love
of
Dreamcast.
because I keep thinking about all the great things we would have gotten for Dreamcast had Dreamcast stuck around.
Yeah, yeah, that was an
I
awesome
mean, because
system.
people are still doing, Dreamcast ports for like Naomi games and stuff like
Hmm.
that. They're doing
Yeah,
like homebrew ports
right.
of like, like some of the more popular Naomi games like Fist of the North Star
Hmm.
and what is it? Demon Fist and a bunch of other
Yeah, a
games.
lot of those Atomi's Wave games that were out, they converted into Dreamcast, so you can play it on a Dreamcast. That's cool.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. So I am so glad that you came here tonight and to
Yeah,
talk
man.
to me about all this stuff. This has just been so much fun. I really appreciate it, man. I love again, man,
I
and
enjoyed it.
I'm glad you were behind the scenes on the Nova Blast. I'm super excited. I'm getting pumped up just again just looking at it right there with you. I'm so glad you got it positioned there and you're sitting next to it. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to what's coming next with Unico and what other products they could be coming down the line later on. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for the future of all this stuff. This hobby is alive and well and thriving, and we should all be excited as fans of this stuff. So
Yeah, there's definitely stuff coming from Unico. There's handhelds that they're looking at. There's console type devices. There's even well, I'll just leave it there. There are things. There's definitely things in their pipeline. It doesn't end here. There's still definitely some things coming. So a lot of things
awesome.
to be excited about and check out for sure.
Awesome, cool. Well, I'll definitely have to have you back on when the next project when the next big Unico project hits.
Sure thing.
I'm
This was
definitely
easy.
I'm definitely
I didn't know how complicated it was going to be to set this thing up and all that, but I think I have a pretty good setup.
Oh
So
no, yeah, you got a great setup. You sound
mhm,
great. Everything
cool.
everything came out well. So yeah,
That's good.
I can't complain. This has been awesome. Yeah, and you guys out there with your wrenches, uh, you're very welcome. You have your wrenches because you're cool people, and I appreciate you guys being here.
What's with the wrench? What is that?
Appreciate your support. Mods for the channel.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate you guys being here, and it's always fun. And from week to week, I have different people on. I talk about a lot of different things, as you know. I don't always stick to the same subject matter.
Yeah,
So
that's what's cool, dude. You do a lot of stuff, man. You know what? I was researching like your actual name, like your name and all that stuff, and so I looked you up, and there was an article that was written about the what's it called, the Snyder Cut.
yeah.
So there was an article, and that you were mentioned in there as being part of that whole movement to
Hmm.
to to get the Snyder Cut and stuff, and that's kind of where they listed out your full name, and that you're like you're a writer for some other, like a magazine or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I thought that was cool. I mean, like you're into a lot of stuff, man, and I know a lot of your shows have to do with like movies and the DC universe and all, and comics, and different types of content, which is cool. I've seen some of your stuff for sure, man. I've watched you from time to time. I can't say I've seen every single of your lives, but I have tuned in. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'm all over the place, and like I said, I've been following you for forever. I mean, I think you and I met. We became friends in the Telegram
On
groups
Telegram.
for the for the Hilo stuff.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
So that was, yeah,
yeah,
that's how you and I met, and then we just started like everything else. It's all very organic when you meet people. It just all
yeah.
sort of filters all out through social media and stuff. So yeah, man, it's awesome.
Cool.
But we're gonna be back here again soon, and I've got a watch party coming up with Mad's Mama Bear on Friday night for Beverly Hills Cop. So be here for that. Shout out to Skywalker the Jedi. Shout out to the Cool Table. And we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I mean,
Cool,
unless you guys have any questions or comments for Neo before we wrap it up, I think we can safely wrap this up for tonight.
All right.
All right. Well,
Thanks for having me on, man.
Good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
All right.